Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm getting these comments about no audio, so we're just going to go ahead and get started. As people are joining in, we saw people coming in, so kind of give it a minute or two before we kick off. My name is Kenny Bedwell. I am the founder of STR Insights. We help people find profitable short-term rental deals around the country. We also have really good data too, and that's why I'm hosting this, because things are changing in the Airbnb space. Before we kick off, we still have tons of people joining in. I see the numbers. We just broke over 200. So we're going to keep letting people join for a minute or two before we kick off the actual presentation. I do want to know, for the sake of helping Erik and I cater to you guys and our audience and just knowing a little bit about you guys, I do want you guys to answer a question and be involved in the chat. So the question I want you to answer: how many people who've joined, how many people haven't launched an Airbnb property yet? So I know some of you listening just purchased a property, and you can let me know like where you're at. A lot of people on here are obviously already hosts, and that's probably why you joined. But for those of you who have yet to buy a property or thinking about buying a property, let us know in the chat. Maybe let us know where you're looking or where you just purchased a property but you haven't launched it yet. Let me know in the chat. So yep, not yet. There's a few. So yeah, let us know, Mary, Keith, Henry, Patty, like let us know where you're looking at, some markets. If it's a secret, pick another random place. I don't really care, but let us know if you haven't launched a property yet. Just curious how many people are going to be who are in the process of purchasing, and how this might change their underwriting process. Yeah, so let me know in the chat there, and we will get started in a second. I'm going to send a message real quick, and then we'll go. Okie dokie. All right, we got a lot. Adirondacks, like Arrowhead, not sure, maybe Connecticut. Interesting. Central Florida, Niagara Falls, Canada. Okay, cool. I used to live near there. Puente Verde. All right. Hosting Florida, a lot of Florida. Awesome. Check your insurance, people. Smokies. Nice. Okay, cool. We got a lot. We got a good, decent list here. Okay, guys. So it's been kind of that 5-minute mark. So let's go ahead and get started. We've got a lot of people on here. We've got over about 200. We're going to hit 230 or more. So let me put this banner up, and we're going to kick things off. So brief introduction again: who I am, why I'm relevant, why I'm qualified to do this topic. My name is Kenny Bedwell, founder of STR Insights consulting platform. We help people find deals, and we also have a data platform. We are very, very focused on how to evaluate with whether our data, and then teaching people how to do it. With Airbnb's new pricing policy change with the fees going towards the host, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Our focus is to help you understand how to underwrite. And so let me bring myself back here before I go any further. I'm going to be introducing. So first off, we have a special guest with us, Erik Courson. Erik Courson is the CEO, a colleague of mine too. He helps us and consults with us with STR Insights. And he is the CEO of STR Tech Talk. So he knows very much on the tech side and has some really good examples. Is going to teach us and really define what this policy means. I've been seeing a ton of different outlooks and opinions and definitions of what the policy are. Half of them are wrong, and people's opinions aren't necessarily wrong. I'm just saying like some of how they're defining what the policy actually is incorrect. And so we need to first attack what it is and how it is. And so without further ado, I'm going to bring in Erik Courson. Erik, how are you doing today?
Good afternoon or morning for some of you. I'm doing fantastic. Super excited to talk about Airbnb's fee structure. Exactly what I want to be doing on Thursday.
On a Thursday, I know this is like very impromptu. I was like, Erik, let's do it. I saw his article. We're going to pull up his article, everybody, and go through that together. So first off, everybody, a little bit of housekeeping before we just jump right into stuff. I know you have some questions, okay? To disclaim, so obviously, number one, save your questions for the very end. We're going to answer questions at the end of the presentation so that we can, because some of the stuff we will talk about will probably answer some of your questions. That's the goal. So save your questions for the end and we'll put them in the chat. disclaimer numero uno. Erik and I are not revenue managers. We're not pricing strategists. We have short-term rentals. We run short-term rentals, and sometimes we do our own pricing, but that doesn't make us qualified to teach you, and we're not experts on how to price your short-term rental property. I'm going to be very clear on that. I know we're going to get that question. What do I do? The reality is you have to create a specific strategy for your property in your market. Every property in every market will be different. There is no one size fits all with this new change. And I'm going to show you why and prove it to you with economics and data science, which is my specialty. But the reality is we're not going to get into, well, what should I do for my pricing? We're just going to give you some suggestions and some strategies for the road that you can take, general strategies on what you need to do. But ultimately, especially if you have a revenue manager, you need to consult with your revenue manager and create a plan of how you're going to attack this. If you just approach October 27th, which is the date that this is going to go into effect, without a plan, you are going to get hit hard with some reality. We're going to talk about that as well. So without further ado, Erik, I'm going to bring up the presentation and wait, where is it? There it is. So Erik, let's jump into things. So I'm going to let Erik take over in a second. He's going to go into the details. He's also going to talk about the 3 common myths that we're seeing online right now of people in the industry, what they're talking about and what's true and what's false. He's going to go into that. Then we're going to move into how does this impact us financially besides this huge uptick in percentage? What does that mean for you financially? Then we're going to move into future underwriting. How do I underwrite properties based on the changes that are happening? Because here's the problem, guys. I'm a data provider. Okay. We get our data from Airbnb and VRBO. That data is based on the trailing 12 months, not the future 12 months, not the 12 months taking into account a 15% difference in host fees. So how do we underwrite properties? How do we know what to do and what data is good and what data is bad with any of the data providers? I'm going to answer that question for you. And then finally, at the very end, how can you protect yourself? What can you do? What are next steps for you? Those are the 5 things. This is 100% here. We're here to help you guys and educate. This is a hot topic, and we want to give you guys our thoughts and input. And that is the purpose of this presentation for today. So sit back, enjoy, take notes. This will be recorded, and it is being recorded. It's going to be on YouTube. You're also going to get a link if you're on StreamYard. This will be sent to you in an email link from StreamYard with the recording. So if you miss it or you hop off early, just watch the recording. It's recorded. So Erik, let's first dive into what the heck were the policy changes. And I'm just going to go to your little article that you have on your website here. So take it away, Erik.
Sure. I don't know if I could share
your screen, put it up here, and then I will bring it up to the main stage. So while you're doing that, I want to tell everybody Erik's got a site and he did this blog article that we're going to be sharing. It's at strtechtalk.com, and he's got some blogs, and this is the one. It's called Simplified Pricing. So he's got his here. So I'm going to bring mine back and then bring his up. And there you go. Oh, he's got a nice little thing here. So Erik, take it away.
This is the email that started it all, right? This was in our world almost hotter news than Travis and Taylor getting engaged. But
I don't know, Erik.
We are 1:30 Eastern time on Monday. Airbnb sends out this email, important update to our fee structure. This is impacting all hosts that use a property management software with OwnerRez, Guesty, Lodgify, those types of softwares. So if you don't use one of those, you probably didn't get this email. Obviously, if you're not set up on Airbnb yet, you did not get this email, but this will impact you as well once you get listed and use a property management software. So it's the announcement is pretty simple. We're simplifying our service fees. So on October 27th, hosts using property management software will switch to a single fee where hosts set the price guests pay. So previously we had the option you could do a split fee where you pay 3% as a host to Airbnb and the guest pays a guest fee anywhere from 12 to 14%, depending on location, country, etc. As a host, you had the ability to select which one works best for you. You will no longer have that option. Starting on October 27th, all hosts using property management software will be switched to what they call the simplified pricing, where the guest fee will be eliminated, and we as hosts will pay a single 15.5%.
So Erik, real quick, sorry to cut you off. I do want to define something that I see some questions that I'm sure we'll get questions on. What is property management software?
So many of us hosts use some sort of platform to help manage calendars, manage your listing across multiple platforms, messaging. It's kind of an all-in-one sort of solution where you don't have to log in to Airbnb and Vrbo separately and update your descriptions or your photos. Everything is in kind of one central location.
Well, what if I'm using Price Labs or Wheelhouse or Beyond Pricing?
So
or
those pricing
just
platforms,
pricing tool.
yeah, technically are not considered a PMS. So if you're just on Airbnb and you use Price Labs and you have Price Labs connected directly to Airbnb and don't use a property management software, this will not affect you.
Okay. Carry on. Thank you. That's good to
know. It gives a little mathematical example here. So it says, for example, today, if you set your price at $100, you earn $97, and your guests pay about $115. That's their, 15% guest fee. Switching over, if you adjust your price to $115, you'll still earn somewhere similar at $97.18, and your guests will pay the same amount, $115. We're not lobbying that you raise your rate exactly that amount, or if at all. We'll get to that later, but that's the example in the email. They have also updated their
I like how they put you get $97.18 instead of $97, but you got to raise your prices.
Yeah.
They're such a-holes.
The guest pays the same amount. We'll talk about that. So that's probably a good segue into the three myths.
Okay.
If you want,
I'll bring this guy back up. Actually, Erik, I do want you to. I loved your blog, by the way. I'm going to refer back to it, but can you walk? I thought that Airbnb's is a little slick. Their example. Can you walk us through the example that you did in your blog?
Yeah. So let me pull it up on my own screen. So I went a little more in depth with the math. I mean, obviously, one thing that they are not taking into account in their example might be, state and local taxes, which is taxed on the nightly rate and other fees like cleaning fees and pet fees. So there's an impact on what the guest pays here as well. So the sort of real math, with the current standard pricing, I'm using $1,000 booking as an example. So under the current split fee model, which apparently about 95% of hosts in the US currently are utilizing, thanks to Jamie Lane for that little nugget of information. The host receives $970, right? 97%. The guests will pay about $1,262 total. I'm assuming you're in a location that has 12% taxes, which is maybe somewhat common. You have state sales tax. You might have a county sales tax, a 5%, local occupancy tax. 10 to 12% is fairly standard in a lot of locations. So I rolled with 12% as an example. Obviously, this can vary by location. So in this $1,000 booking, the guest is paying $1,262. $1,000, which is your nightly rate, $142 guest fee. I went with 14.2, which I think is the most common guest fee around most locations in the United States today, and $120 in taxes. Airbnb earns $172, and the tax revenue that those local taxing authorities get is $120. Now, if you just switch to the simplified pricing on October 27th and make no adjustments to your price, that same $1,000 booking, you're going to get $844.50. That's after the new 15.5% host fee. The guests will still pay the same amount in taxes, $120. That's 12%. Airbnb is going to earn a little bit less, $155.50, and the tax revenue is the same. So the guest is the winner in this scenario. They're going to be paying only $1,120. Airbnb gets shorted, you get shorted, taxes stay the same. Simplified pricing, if you adjust your rates to maintain the same payout. So assuming your $1,000 booking, you want to earn that same $970. You would have to raise your rates to $1,148, and the guest is going to pay a total of $1,286. That's your $1,148 plus now $138 in state and local taxes. So Airbnb is going to earn more money, $178. The tax revenue is going to go up $100 to $138, and you're breaking even, and the guest is going to pay more to give Airbnb and the taxing authorities more. So kind of any way you slice it, the best you can kind of hope for is to get the same amount of payout that you did previously, but that's going to make the guest pay more.
Yep. The guest pays more. Airbnb earns more. The tax revenue is higher. So Airbnb, remember guys, like we gotta look at, this is Airbnb's business, right? They're like, how can we make more money and market this in a way that we look better and incentivize people to book more? And that's what they're doing. It's a true marketing ploy where they're going to say, we don't charge any guest fees now, but you're eating the fees. And they're hoping, just like what we saw, like what Erik showed earlier in Airbnb's example, they're hoping that you're going to adjust to maintain that payout so that they can get paid more. So, but the reality is the guest, if you adjust for that increase, the guest is actually going to pay more money overall. So it's not a win-win-win unless you just eat the fee altogether, but you make less money. So Airbnb is winning either way. And that it's like a tricky marketing ploy to get more business, but also, they're going to put out some commercial at the Super Bowl next year, like no guest fees, like hotels have hotel fee or whatever, but Airbnb, there's no fee. You can totally see it. So, there's a couple questions, Erik, that people have asked, like just basic on the structuring that I think we need to talk about. Let's answer some of the questions. Okay. Now, if we don't answer your question, save it, post it for the end. Okay. We'll save it. We'll answer more like the more specific, complicated ones towards the end. So, I'm going to go here. There are a few that I'm going to skip. And like I said, if I skip it, I don't answer it, let's save it for the end. I skipped it for a specific reason. So Erik, one of the things you mentioned, property management software. So that's like Hostfully, Hospitable, OwnerRez, all of that, not the price labs. But what is happening on December 1st? What is the December 1st?
So that's probably one of the biggest myths. So if you pull up the Airbnb help,
I don't have it, so sorry.
I've got it up.
Okay, just keep so keep your screen share, and I'll just remove it when we're done, and just in this presentation format, so it's easier for you. So, all right, I'm going to add.
You can go to Airbnb's help article. They all have a number, and it's airbnb.com/help/article, and then whatever the article number is. This one happens to be 1857. Just do a quick Google search of Airbnb service fees, and this is generally the top top result. So I think one of the myths, I'm going to call it a myth for now until I know otherwise, is that this is going to affect all hosts by December 1st. That's not the way that this is currently published. So there's two sections to this article. One is the service fee options, split fee versus just the host service fee. And it clearly says right here, hosts who don't use property management software are not affected and can continue to use the split fee pricing structure. The December 1st date that people are throwing around is referenced down here, where those non-PMS users that are currently using the simplified pricing model, they are paying a 15% fee currently. Some other locations around the world, it's a little different, but the hosts in the United States on the simplified pricing model are paying 15%. On December 1st, for the non-PMS users, that rate is increasing to 15.5%. So they're going to get like a month and a few days of having a smaller host fee than the rest of us, which seems a little unfair. So to go back to your point, Kenny, about like a big marketing campaign around no guest fees, well, there's still going to be people that are able to use the split fee model after October 21st and after December 1st. So I have to assume at some point they're going to make everyone use the same model. I'm only speculating.
And it says most
published right now that after October 27th, after December 1st, that non-PMS users will still be able to use the split fee model. I've heard rumblings. People said that they've talked to people at Airbnb.
Well, it's not even defined here. That's the vague part, right? It says most hosts not using. Who are most hosts?
I think they're referencing maybe these hotel folks, which although most of them, well, I think also maybe international as well. Good question. I don't know.
That's the magic question that we don't really have the answer to.
Most hosts not using property management software.
That is correct. Okay. So it's a little vague still, but pretty much all of you who are using some sort of software will be impacted by this. That's what I'm gonna tell you. So don't like I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm gonna be left out of this. Like we're all gonna be impacted by this. Well, here's a question right here. So some people have asked this question just in different ways, but for bookings after the 27th, but reserved and quoted before the 27th. So if someone books today for next year, will that legacy fee structure be maintained or will it switch over to the new fee?
I can only assume that it will be under the terms and conditions at the time that the booking was made.
That is correct.
Can't really actively refund the guest their guest fee and then charge you more as a host. That's not going to work.
Yep.
I think that will violate some sort of laws as well. So some people say, well, it's an Airbnb. You never know what they're going to do. While that is true, there's no way they could get away with that. They can't charge you more for something that was agreed to under different terms and conditions. So for all bookings made on or after October 27th.
Catherine Sharp said, scroll down the December 1st info right there in the same article, just further down. We must have covered it. Okay. So some people are asking about pricing stuff. We'll talk about that as we go through it. Hotel listings will not be moved to this model. They're excluding hotels listed in Airbnb travel. Go figure. They're probably trying to incentivize the growth of that. Okay. So you can leave your screen share. I'm just going to add mine because I'm controlling everything. Oh wait, I got to remove yours, bring mine up. Okay. So Erik, let's go over the 3 myths. You've kind of talked about one, but let's go over the 3 myths.
Yeah. We kind of skipped the first one, which maybe is pretty important, that the sky is not falling. This is not the end of the world. It's going to impact a large number of people the same way. So I've seen people, in various Facebook groups or whatever, like, oh my gosh, I hate Airbnb. I'm pulling my listing off the platform. That seems to be a little bit of, cutting off your nose to spite your face reaction. I think you just got to arm yourself with the information and decide and figure out what your best course of action is. But the sky is not falling. You just have to, find out how to adjust. That's all. And yeah, not all hosts are impacted, which was a myth flying around of this December 1st date until someone from Airbnb comes out and says publicly that all hosts are going to go to this, or they publish something to that effect. Until then, I have to assume that those non-PMS users do not have to switch their pricing structure. And then how much you raise your rates. Now we can get into strategy, what's best, what you should do. But if you want to maintain your same payout, the math that we just showed, people are saying, I'm going to raise my rates 15.5% or 15%, or I'm already paying 3%, so I'll raise it 12.5%. All of those are mathematically incorrect. If you want to keep your same payout, the percentage that you need to mark it up is 14.79% or 14.78%.
So can you explain how you got to that number? Because I know that's going to be a question.
It's basic math. I'm not sharing anymore.
Here, let me do this. Boom.
Okay. So here's the change. Here's the old fee, 3%, nightly rate $100. Your host fee was $3, leaving you $97. We work backwards. We have a 15.5% fee. We want a $97 payout. Host fee is at 15.5%. The math is $97, which is the payout, divided by 1 minus the new rate, which gets you to $114.79. You can put in an Excel formula here. This example is pretty easy because we're using a $100 nightly rate. The percentage increase is 14.79%. Then you can test that yourself. Take pull up my calculator. If I charge $114.79 and I'm only getting 84.5% of that, 0.845, $96.99. So round up, I get $97.
So Eric, what about cleaning fees and other fees? How is that?
So Airbnb has always taken a cut of those fees. So, depending on how you go about this and how you accommodate for any rate increase, you got to increase those things the same as well. I know some people don't charge a cleaning fee that matches what they pay, but just know that, if you have a $100 cleaning fee, moving forward, you're only going to get $84.50 out of that. So adjust accordingly. Then we can talk about how to handle this in your property management software. I assume they all work very similar. You can just mark up like an owner res, for example, which is what I use. You have the option to apply an increase to a specific platform. In this case, it would be Airbnb. I would put in 14.79%. And it has the option of applying that increase to just the nightly rate or the rate and all fees. So you could, do whatever you feel is necessary. You could do just the rate and then update what your cleaning fee is as well. It's going to work out the same either way.
Yeah. Okay, so we're starting to get into territory, and I see the questions, and I know it's going to go this way of pricing strategies. So we're not going to get into pricing strategies, but I will answer a few of these questions. Eric, you're welcome to jump in. So I don't know if Price Labs has made a statement about incorporating the new Airbnb policy. But like Erik just said, you actually, if you're using property management software, you would do that in that software, not in Price Slabs, the fee adjustment amount. And Erik is correct with the math. It's 14.78 or 79%. And that someone's asking like when you would do it. That is actually a strategy. When should you do that? If you're using property management software, the stuff's going to impact you by, October 27th. So should you do it the day before? Should you do a little bit before and sprinkle it in? That is a strategy that you have to determine maybe with your revenue manager. There's not a right or wrong answer to that. If you do it after the 27th and you get bookings between that 27th and when you adjusted, you're going to miss out on that. You're going to be eating some of the costs there. So you need to keep that in mind. So Catherine Sharp says, I don't understand how you say December 1st is a myth when the article reads exactly what you read. What am I missing? It says it will change December 1st. Most hosts currently using singles free structure, while host listings in Brazil will continue to pay 16%, blah, blah, blah. Most hosts connect to the property management software, not using property management software.
Right. It's saying that the non-PMS users that currently use simplified pricing on December 1st will see their single fee rate increase from 15% to 15.5%. And that same article up above, it clearly says that they will still have the ability, use their exact, hosts who do not use property management software are not affected and can continue to use the split fee pricing structure.
So I think the biggest thing to understand, Catherine, is it's kind of vague language. So we don't 100% know yet. Erik is correct, but you might be correct in your assumption as well. And you guys both might be like on the same page, but Airbnb's wording and vernacular here has really made it vague. So I'm assuming this will probably get cleared up in the future. We just don't 100% know. At least that's how I feel about it. Because I can see both sides. I don't know, Erik, if you feel differently, but
I don't know. It seems pretty cut and dry to me because this box is clearly talking about the split fee pricing structure will no longer be available to hosts who use property management software to manage their listings. Effective when that email went out, new hosts, which applies to a lot of people here who aren't currently set up, new hosts who use property management software will only be able to use the single fee structure. So if you create an account today and create a new listing, you can't use the 3% host fee option. It will not be available to you. October 27th, hosts who use property management software will automatically transition to the single fee structure. Hosts who don't use property management software are not affected and can continue to use the split fee pricing structure. I mean, that seems fairly clear. Now, I'm not going to predict the future. I assume at some point Airbnb will come out and force everyone and then have the big marketing campaign. No more guest fees. But they can't do that yet because these people can still use the split fee pricing structure.
Exactly.
The lower part is only talking about what the fee is. Hence, December 21st, the fee is going to go from 15% to 15.5%. So that's the December 1st date. It's definitely confusing, but I don't know. It seems fairly clear in this box.
Okay, cool. No, that's helpful. Thank you. Thank you, Erik. So people are talking about pulling their listings off PMS so they can keep their fee stuff. I mean, I'm not saying to do that or not to do that. So there's pros and cons of doing it.
Yeah, I think the problem with that is, I mean, number one, you're using property management software for a reason, right? It makes your life easier. It helps you do things that would be more difficult, challenging, time-consuming on your own without the software. Mm-hmm. The problem with this whole scenario, I find, is that it's not affecting everyone across the board, right? If it was all hosts are now going to pay a 15.5% host fee, then it's a little easier to adjust, right? Like make an assumption that a lot of people are going to raise their rates, maybe most people, and we're all playing under the same rules. The problem, I think, and this is where what is the best strategy, and I don't know that I have an answer to this right away, is, you're going to have hosts in your market that you're competing with that are still going to use the split fee model. And you're going to have hosts in your market that you're competing with that are either going to be not aware of this change or, don't know what to do and leave the rates the same. And now you're competing with people that are basically undercutting you by 15% if you've raised your rates. And so that gets quite challenging because you don't really know what's going to happen. So I think the answer is like, what's the best strategy? It could vary. I mean,
I think it will vary. It has to vary. So, all right, guys, I want to keep us on path here. So Hillary Sky brought this up. Hey, if this is a ploy to maintain good marketing with Airbnb to make them more money? It is. It's always a ploy to make more money for them. Reading into that makes sense that the industry is in trouble. That goes back to myth number one: the sky is not falling. So this isn't a panic situation. It's just how do we have to be smarter about being in this industry, guys. The lesson, and I'm going to kind of take over from here and talk about the financial impact. But the lesson I want you guys to understand is that the industry is maturing. Okay. Who knows if Airbnb is actually going to be around in 5-10 years? We don't know. There could be other players. We assume that they're just like this gigantic corporation that can't be stopped and they're leeching off of us. And some of us are letting them do that. But the reality is, like, it could change and pivot, but the short-term rental industry will be here forever. It's just maturing. So we have to be smarter. You guys know that if you're buying a property, you have to have professional design. Like that's something like, a couple of years ago, people were just talking about that. And now like, it's this, like, it's just common sense. And so there's a lot like dynamic pricing. I remember, 3 years ago, like people were like, oh, I'm thinking about using like dynamic pricing, and they were just doing flat pricing rates. Now it's like standard to use dynamic pricing. So that's just signs of growth and maturity in the industry, but it makes it harder to, find success. You have to learn the techniques and the skills and the strategies. So we need to, you just got to be smarter about it. So let's talk about the financial impact. I'm going to take you back to, for those of you who were in economics or took economics class, and I'm not talking about home economics, I'm talking about like the economy economics. I'm going to take you back to economics. If you didn't like the class, sorry, this might be a little bit boring, but this is really, really important to understand what is going to happen financially. Here's the problem, and Erik touched on it. It's a good segue. If you just raise your prices 15% or 14.79% and you expect to get the same revenue, you're not. And the reason why is because everyone else is not going to do the exact same thing at the same time. Most people aren't even aware or even understand what's happening. So they're going to leave things the same. And what's going to happen is they're going to start eating that fee. And on top of that too, you have other people who are on a different fee structure, like Erik was mentioning as well. And so you're competing against people who aren't raising their prices and people who are doing different fee structures. And you're all of a sudden pricing higher. And as we know, and if you don't believe me on this, go test it yourself. If you raise your prices in Airbnb, what happens in the algorithm, the ranking algorithm? It ranks you lower, right? So we have to understand that it's not as simple as just raise your prices and this will be covered, because you're competing. Not everyone is doing that. I wish if everyone was doing that, then this wouldn't be a problem and actually wouldn't really impact us financially. But there is going to be some sort of financial impact. The amount of impact, though, will vary property to property and market to market. And it's going to be based on something that I call price elasticity and sensitivity. And this is what we're going to cover foundationally. So let's talk about what this is. So what does elasticity mean? That sounds like a fun word. Like you think of a rubber band, something elastic, right? So price elasticity of demand is a change in price that affects a product's demand. So if I raise a price of something, okay, if I increase my fees, let's go back to the example. So if I want to make my $970 payout and I increase my fees by 14.79%, the guest, guess what? They're paying more money, right? Taxes goes up. Airbnb is making more money, but the guest is paying more money. And I'm literally making the same. So what does that mean economically? Well, we're people who are saying just raise your prices and everything will be fine. That mentality, what that's called, they're assuming that all properties are what we call inelastic, meaning that raising your prices has very little impact on the amount of demand. Whereas if you drop your prices, there's more demand. So, but properties that are impacted by this significantly are what we're going to call elastic. Think of a rubber band, meaning if you raise your prices by a certain percentage, there's less likelihood of people going to book that property because it's priced too high. So the problem is that we're going to see. So let's look at an actual graph here and like illustrate this. So this is an example of elasticity. Okay, so this red line here, it's flat red line, it's perfectly elastic, is demand. Okay, so let's say this is your property, this is current demand in the market. Let's say you're priced at whatever this is, and you want to take into account Airbnb's, new fee structure, and you raise your prices by the 14.79% so you can get the same payout. Okay, so a perfectly elastic property, what happens? So demand shifts down to virtually zero. Okay, now our properties are not perfectly elastic, so don't panic. They're not perfectly inelastic either. We'll talk about that. But the reality is, this is extreme example, a shift in pricing impacts the amount of demand for a property. And in Erik's example, if you try to price your property perfectly at 14.79% and don't adjust your pricing and have no other strategy beyond that, the guest is going to pay more money, which is going to impact the amount of demand of people who want to book your place, and you will get hit financially. Okay, let's inverse, inelastic. So people who are saying just raise your prices and you'll be fine, they're thinking things are inelastic, which is, here's an example. This is the demand line here. It's straight up and down, meaning I price my property at X, Airbnb charges me more fees, and I increase the fees by, say, 10%. Demand stays the exact same. It's the exact same. People are still booking my property, and all things made equal, I'm making the exact same amount of money. No concern whatsoever. Okay, so price elasticity is really, really important to understand, that your property is not inelastic, meaning it is impacted by the price it makes. You guys should be like, okay, yeah, I understand that. It doesn't matter if you walk away understanding how to say elasticity or elastic or inelastic, but the point is that I'm trying to make is your property is impacted by increasing your prices. So it's not as simple as just, I'm going to raise my prices by 14.79% and that's it. And it's not going to have a financial impact on me. That's the key line. You can raise your prices by 14.79% across the board, but it will have some sort of financial impact on you. Let's talk about some inelastic property examples to illustrate. Number one, properties in really good locations, meaning that people, no matter what the price is, people are willing to pay more, even though that property is pricing higher because it's in a really good location. So for example, beachfront properties, lakefront properties, properties like right in the downtown or right in the desirable location. If you increase their pricing by 14.79%, people are still going to pay it. That there's not going to be really a big difference in demand. And those properties are less likely to be impacted by this new fee structure, meaning they will probably make the same amount of money year over year. Property type, unique properties. So the more unique a property is, the more inelastic it is, meaning like, here's a really crazy spaceship. Okay. The spaceship is, let's go back to Erik's example. They still want to make $970 a year. Okay. And they increase their pricing by that 14.97%. And people are still going to pay it because it's a weird, crazy spaceship and they want to stay there. This could be, I've seen tree houses and properties in caves and the glass houses and stuff. Like the 14.79% increase in price is not going to impact the amount of demand and the amount of revenue that these properties are seeing. But the problem is not all of our properties are really, really like unique like this. Okay. So the other one that I want to mention too of properties that are inelastic are properties with what I call extreme amenity offerings. All right. So for example, here's a freaking lazy river. How many properties have lazy rivers? Not many. And this is an Airbnb. This one's in like Indio, California. So what we're seeing here is this property can raise its prices and it probably financially won't be impacted that much compared to a property that looks like all the other properties. And that leads into what are elastic properties. So here's a really, really good example of properties that will be financially hit more on Airbnb than the other ones I just showed you. So here's an example of like townhouses in a beach market that aren't beachfront. They're all the same. They offer the same exact product. And so this person's using simplified pricing. This person's not. This person's just doing flat rates. Like the person who's trying to just raise rates by 14.79% is going to get murdered financially in a property like this. So we really, really, really have to be looking for properties that are going to be unique and stand out. Here's another good one. This is a common property now. Like I just picked the Smokies. This property is nice. It has views. It has all these things, but there are thousands of properties just like this one. So my point being is that how much of an impact this new change will have on you depends on your property and your market. It's not the same across the board. You can't assume, and then you can't assume I can just raise my prices and everything's going to be fine, because everyone's not doing the exact same thing. Everyone has different types of properties. So the only true winner here is Airbnb and local municipalities where they make more money because you're trying to raise your prices. I'm going to answer some questions on this in this second. So keep that in mind. And once again, going back to the example, this is if you're trying to raise your prices. Let's look at another graph here. I'm going to come back to that one. So raising your prices, I have like raising your price. I'm going to change this to 14%, 14.79%, whatever, 14%. So raising your prices doesn't solve the problem. It's not a simple fix. Okay. What I mean by that. So what am I going to do? Because I have properties. I'm in the same boat as all of you. I'm going to go into my hospitable or owner res, and I am going to increase the rate by 14.79%. But I also understand that my properties are not perfectly inelastic. So there will be some sort of financial impact to me. So what does that mean for me, and how do I adjust? That means my pricing strategy, I have to get very aggressive on my pricing strategy. But I will probably lose income, all things made equal. Keep that in mind, all things made equal. Assuming I'm going to make exactly the same and there's no changes in the economy and there's no outside externalities that impact my performance year over year. And if I'm going to make 100,000 this year, I'm going to make 100,000 next year. Next year, I'm probably going to net a little bit less. But because my properties are more unique, I might be not as impacted as somebody who has like a condo or a lookalike property as everyone else. Okay. So it's really important to understand inelasticity and elasticity with your property and how this is going to impact you financially. Okay. Because if your property is like everybody else's, here's the problem with that. You're going to have to get really aggressive on your pricing. And this ties into this next, I'll go back to the ranking thing in a second. Pricing strategies will change based on seasonality. You guys should know that. You should know that in the wintertime, we're heading the off season for most markets, not ski markets, like beach markets and some mountain markets and whatever, lake markets. It's the low season. So if you go in and you raise your prices by 14.79%, you're going to get destroyed by all the other people. You're not going to get bookings. And here's the lesson I've learned. People do not care about people don't care about how, like at the end of the day, I've seen this from people. They don't track how much they make on a monthly basis. How many of you have a P&L that you look at every single month at the end of the month from how much you made? Not how much you grossed, but how much you netted every single month after expenses. How many people actually do that? Okay. Hopefully some of you do, but most of you don't.
I don't.
90% of you probably don't. All right. So good for you. The 3 people said, I do. Cool. 3 of you out of like 250 people on this thing. So I'm sure there's a little more, but I said 90% don't. And that's fine. I get it. But the problem is people don't judge success based off of what they net today. They judge success based on occupancy, meaning how many bookings they're getting. I see it all the time with new hosts. For any of you who are like, I'm about to launch a property or I'm looking for a property, you will most likely, it's emotional response. It's not a logical response. You will judge your success based on getting bookings. It's a dopamine hit when you get that email notification or text message from Airbnb. Congratulations, you just got a booking. And you're like, yes. And you're like, cool, it was for $1,300. But the reality is, after a year, after 6 months or so, if you're paying money, but you're still getting bookings, but you're paying money out for your property, like, wait a second, I'm getting all these bookings, but I'm not making any money. And so my point is most hosts will not feel the impact of this until 6 months to a year down the road, because they're not tracking that. They're tracking getting bookings. How do we get bookings? Drop your prices. I guarantee you, if you drop your prices, guess what's going to happen? You're going to rank higher in the algorithm. The searching algorithm rewards you for dropping your prices. If you go in on October 27th and you increase your pricing by 14.79%, you will drop in the ranking algorithm. There's a consequence for just going in and dropping your prices.
But how much of that will be countered by switching the fee structure, right? There'll be no guest fee.
Yeah, but your overall price will be higher. Airbnb is going to punish you by that. So, and you'll have people who don't drop their prices. So they're going to naturally be raised up. Now, here's the thing though, going back to it, it's not as simple as, well, I raise my prices and I don't get bookings, because that's not true, because every property is different in elastic, and every market's different. But seasonality plays in here. When there's high demand, and this is important for everybody, when there's high demand like the summertime, you can raise your prices and people will most likely pay it. So I encourage people to raise their prices to 14.79%, especially during the summer season, because people will pay it. Like in July, my property is at 98% occupancy. Maybe I go down to 95% occupancy because I'm just a little bit more expensive, but it makes up for that difference. So even though I'm telling you like, hey, be careful with this, you can still do it in high seasons and you're not going to be as impacted as in the low seasons. That's why your pricing strategy has to be very different season to season. It can't be the same. And you guys know that, I can't have high prices in the wintertime. Duh. But you have to get more aggressive during the wintertime. And that's where it can impact you financially. But you can make it up during the summertime when there's high demand. But your revenue manager has to be on top of this if you're hiring somebody, or you have to be consistently updating your pricing and staying on top of this in monitoring demand if you're going to make up that 14% difference. So keep like seasonality. This is this curved line here that I want to show you guys. This is like a real extreme example of like a seasonality curve line where like the amount of supply as the price drops, so here's pricing. As price drops, the amount of demand can drastically increase, but it's not really increasing that much because there's not that much demand during the wintertime or whatever the off season is. But in the summertime, it's more realistic like this line, or even more a little inelastic, meaning that it's more straight up and down, meaning you can raise your prices and demand is exactly the same. So don't think that it's like a 1-for-1. Every single season's the same. And I can't raise my prices here to adjust for this. And I can't lower my prices to also pivot as well. We have to be consistent and we have to know and understand when there is demand so that you can adjust your pricing based on this fee structure. We're beyond the whole set it and forget it. We used to do that 2 years ago and that was like fun. Literally, like I remember just like I put whatever price in like a couple of years ago for summertime. And I was like, holy crap, I'm getting $2,000 a night on this property. I was $350. I paid $350 for $2,000 a night. And here's the thing. There was a certain point where it's like, I could price it at $2,500, but then people wouldn't get the value from it. So it was more of like a value, like what can I really get this thing to without pissing people off and getting bad reviews and ratings based on what they paid for. So, but now it doesn't work like that. You have to be strategic. No, Brian, the in price. So here we go. This is the misconception. You got to go back to the example. If you don't get it, go back to the example. The in price is not the same. Here we go. Let's do it again. So if you want to make the same amount of money by adjusting your price by 14.79%, the guest pays more money. They're not going to want to, that's less demand. When people pay more money, there's less people willing to do that, especially during the off season. But in the high season, you are correct. It's not going to be, it won't matter to the guests, but they are paying more money if you're trying to make up and make the same amount of money. Now, going back to Erik's this is why I like his example. Everybody go to the blog post and just like study it. If you don't do it, the guest pays the exact same amount or pays less, and they're more willing to book, but that's based on occupancy, right? And you're not making as much money. So there's got to be a delicate balance between the two, depending on seasonality is my point. So you can't, what I'm trying to get is it's not a simple just raise your prices and everything is fine, but it's also not like you can't raise your prices and it's the end of the world and everyone's going to be financially ruined. You have to be smart about it or you're going to be hit financially. You've really got to go in with specific pricing strategies. Look at your booking lead time, when people are booking, how far in advance are they booking to create your strategies if you're managing your own pricing. And you need to have strong go over this with your revenue manager and see what their plan of attack is if you've hired somebody. I mean, honestly, guys, like I get this stuff. I can't consistently manage my own pricing. I hire it out. Okay. And I'm having these conversations with the revenue managers. I'm like, what's the play here? What are we doing? Because I understand the economics of it and it's multifaceted. It's not simple black and white, X or Y, like, oh, just raise it by 14.79%. There will be some sort of financial impact to me. How can we make that up when in high demand seasons? Here's another thing to think about too. If you could simply raise your rates by 14.79% and it be okay across the board and you make the same amount of money or more money, why haven't you already done it? Why haven't you already done it? Because you wouldn't get booked as much. So you have to think about like demand sensitivity based on seasonality. Okay. So at some times you could raise your rates by 20% and you're still going to get booked because it's high season. Where other times you're going to have to lose a little bit of money just to try to get by and get the bookings. Okay. So let's keep going. We're running out of time. Okay. So what does this mean for you? Number one, if you're looking for deals, and I got to do the underwriting example. Crap. If you're looking for deals, number one, biggest lesson, you need to focus on properties that have some sort of moat, something that can separate you from everyone else. It can be a physical moat. It could be location. It could be a property type. It could be the types of amenities and design and what you're going to do to the property to make it stand out on Airbnb. The number one lesson I want you guys to walk away from is that we're in a marketing business as well. You're trying to market to people, sell an experience, not selling real estate. That is marketing. And if you don't go in with a plan, especially when you're looking at a property and what the plan is to execute to market for that property to stand out, your property is going to be more what we call elastic, meaning impacted by the pricing fluctuations more so than a property that's more unique and inelastic. And so we need to be smart in how we find deals and look for deals. And it all starts at the very beginning. Now, most of you on here already have a property. So you're like, okay, well, crap. Like, I don't have like a really crazy unique property. What do I need to do? Maybe you can look at, upgrading amenities or improving it somehow. But the reality is like, the less unique you are, the more impacted financially you'll be by this change on Airbnb. Now, here's another thing too I want you to think about. Some of you are in some markets like beach markets in Florida where Airbnb is a very small minority of your business. You probably won't be impacted by this as much as somebody who is heavily dependent on Airbnb. So it's going to vary person to person. There is no one size fits all. You have to figure out how you're going to take action in your strategy, your pricing strategy, and then are you going to attack, and I have some like, what can you do today? Like talk to your revenue manager, create a pricing strategy, focus on building direct bookings. That's another thing too. And then explore using other OTAs. For example, I bought in Kentucky and I assumed that most of our business would be on Airbnb. It's not. It's on booking.com and VRBO, like 90% of it, which is crazy to me. But it's mainly old people coming to Kentucky for the bourbon trails where we're at in our property. and older people use those sites more than Airbnb. So the property, whereas my Asheville property that's like 75% dominated by Airbnb, that property is going to be more impacted than the Kentucky property by this pricing policy change, because we're already paying the higher fees on VRBO and people are already paying them. We're not really making that big of adjustments on the Kentucky property, but the Asheville one, we're going to have to get very, very, very competitive and strategic with the revenue manager and our plan to stand out to try to make our property look more inelastic or unique, so we're not as impacted financially by these fees. Okay, last thing I want to talk about is this is the big data. And I apologize, we're going over, but this is recorded, guys. You can watch the recording if you have to hop off later. I see some people have already been doing that. So, and then we'll answer questions at the end. So let's talk about the data on STR Insights real quick, and just data providers in general. So I just took a random property. This is in Luray, Virginia. It's a nice little pool property for $535 if anyone's interested. And I threw it in STR Insights. I put 3 bedrooms. And you know, here are some of the properties here. So here's the thing. I'm just going to click a listing. Okay. Here's the listing here. It's a crap hole. Hence why I think it's a good market. And so the data in STR Insights is based on the trailing 12 months. So here's trailing 12 months of data. Okay. For every single month of their revenue, occupancy, ADR, and then here's their revenue. Okay. We can see the listing here. But what's going to happen in the future and how data providers are getting their data right now, excuse me, let me answer that second part first. How data providers are getting their data is they're going into Airbnb and they're seeing what people are paying on for the ADR, the average daily rate. So you can see if I put in those dates in 856 and I come in later and those dates are booked, I know that person got $856 a night for that particular property minus the 3% OTA fee. Okay. So all of this data in STR Insights is based off of that. All right. That's really, really important. Now, fast forward in like 2 months when this new thing happens. Okay. This data is going to be based off of that, but every single month that will get inputted in. Remember, it's a trailing 12. So there will be a period of time where the majority of the data that you see, so starting October 27th, will be a trailing 12 based on the 3% simplified pricing strategy. So this gross revenue, I'm not telling you it's going to be inaccurate. You're going to have to be smarter on how you evaluate. All right. So here's what you do, because the data is the data. All right. So meaning like we need to use multiple comparable properties to get a range of data. You can't say a property is going to make $60,000 anymore. I hate it. If you want to drive me nuts, send me a property and say, I think this thing's going to make 200K. Like that's what it's going to make. It's not going to make 200K. It's either going to make above it or it's going to make below it. Short-term rental revenue is subjective. So if it's subjective, we need to have a range of gross revenue. But how do we take into account the range of gross revenue if it's based off of fees and things that aren't taken into account accounted for? So here's what I do in my performa, and I recommend you do the same thing until we have more clean data and a better understanding from Airbnb and how this is all going to work. So I have the example property here. Let's just go through a performa. So performa is an underwriting calculator. If you want this performa, all you have to do is go to the STR Insights website. Excuse me, let me go there real quick. You can go to Data Tools, click performa, download the performa. It'll send it to your email. I already have your email, so it doesn't matter. Just send it. It will send it to your email, the actual spreadsheet that I'm going to walk you through. It's free. So let's say I buy a property. We're going to keep it simple. I buy a property for $1 million, closing costs. I'm in a tax-friendly state, so it's only 2%. I'm going to put in, what is this, 180 in furnishings. I don't know where this came from. Doesn't matter. Here's my debt service. Okay, I'm putting 10% down. I've got to pay some PMI, private mortgage insurance, and my interest rate around 7%. This is like what we're getting quoted right now for 10% down. Okay, so here's my revenue, 170 to 200. All right, this is what I want you guys to pay attention to. Notice it's a range. It's good, better, best, or worst case to best case scenario. All right, my current returns are between 17 to 26%. All right, but look at this. And this has been in our performa the whole time. There's an OTA in my monthly expenses. There's an OTA fee that we put in of 3%. This has been baked in forever. This is part of it. So it takes 3% out of your income. It's right here, $6,000. Okay, that's what all the data has been based off of. And this is what this is based off of. Okay, well, Airbnb is changing their fee structure. So how do we take that into account? So now let me be clear. Yes, what Erik's example, if you want the same payout, it's like 14.79%. But that has nothing to do with gross revenue. It's all about net. Your net at the end of the day, if you want the same net, it's increased by 14.79%. If you want the same, like the way we evaluate though is we look at gross and then get down to net. So the new fee that we're paying is 15.5%, and that needs to be in the pro forma. So, but here's the catch. Okay, this is very important. My gross revenue estimation, at least in my worst case scenario, I'm going to be clear, this is the strategy I use. My gross revenue estimation in the worst case is exactly the same. Okay? Because yes, if I don't change anything right now, I have to put 15.5% in, and I need to see worst case scenario. If I make zero pricing adjustments and do nothing to my property to adjust my pricing based on this fee structure change, if I do this, where's the simple example, where this one right here. So I'm making less money now. What does that look like from a revenue standpoint? We got to go worst case, and then we can go to best case. So the reality is, with adjustments in our pricing, and this part's going to get confusing, and I understand that, so ask me questions and I'll answer them at the end here. But in reality is this fee structure, we're not going to lose net loss 15% or 15.5 or 14.79. We will adjust our prices. We'll adjust our fee structure. Because why? Basic economics says if I change nothing and I take the hit of the 15.5%, the guest pays less money than they did before. Before they were paying, so the current structure now they're paying $1,262. With the new structure, they're paying $1,120 if I make no changes. So what happens when prices go down and there's current demand? Demand goes up. So there'll be more bookings. So we can increase our pricing. Like just basic economics says we can increase our pricing because guests are going to be technically paying less and less. So there'll be more demand. So we can increase our pricing by some amount. So the fact of the matter is that this fee might financially impact you not by 15%, but maybe by like 5% or 8% or 10%. But it's going to be property specific, and you're not going to know the exact amount it's going to impact you by. You won't. You can't. It's a guess. But we do know economically that it will impact different properties based on their elasticity. And so you have to kind of take this into account. So if you don't know the exact answer, which none of us do, what do? We run it on a range. What are the possibilities from worst case to best case scenario? Here is my rule of thumb. So what I do is I believe in about a 20% range. Okay. So for my revenue, my worst case to my best case scenario, to look at my returns. So once I feel really good about my worst case scenario, I usually like to go about 20% higher than that. In this case, I kept it simple. It's not exactly 20%. So forgive me, but it's 170 to 200. All right. That's current today with the 3% OTA fee. And you can see that's a 17. We're going to use cash on cash in this example. That's between a 17 to 26% return. Now, with the new OTA fee that I have to put in at 15.5%, my revenue, though, I should theoretically, if I'm adjusting my prices, and I will adjust my prices higher during the higher demand seasons, because remember, people are more willing to pay. That means I should theoretically gross more money, right? You're charging higher prices, and you should gross more money. However, how much more, we don't know yet. So what do? We run a wider range to understand our worst case is still the same at 170, but our best case, I use a 30% rule, meaning I use so if we take 170 and multiply it by 30%, That means I have a 50% window. So my best case scenario for underwriting will be up to $50,000 more than my worst case. So I have between 170 to 220. And I know I'm going to fall in this range between here and here. So what does that do for my returns? My cash on cash return in the worst case is obviously going to drop from, let's go back here, from 17% to 8%. And that is the worst case example. That's why we do the worst case. And but it's not up. It goes slightly down. But now I'm realistically between 8 and 22% rather than 17 and 26. Yes, it's not a tight range, and I understand that. But we don't know certain things. We don't know the impacts it's going to have on our particular properties. But we do and we should increase the gross revenue potential, because technically the gross revenue potential will go up because of inelasticity of demand, meaning in the high season, you can charge more. So it doesn't, all things made equal, it doesn't work like that. So when we don't know the exact specifics, this is the takeaway. You need to run wider ranges, but always have that base 15% worst case scenario. And then make your decision based on the worst case scenario. And if you do that, that will help mitigate risk in a decision like this based on these fee changes until we have better data. And this data is updated for the current year. Okay, that was a lot, and I understand that. But remember the 30% rule and run your revenue, your gross revenue on ranges in your pro forma. Those are the biggest takeaways that I can give you today, amongst all the other things. I'm going to pause here and let's go over questions. So Erik, feel free to unmute. I know you've been, I can see your screen. So I'm down there, not on the main thing, but anyway, were there any questions that, obviously I got to scroll through, but if you had an important question that I didn't answer, just repost it so I don't have to like fish through everything. But Erik, any thoughts, anything you want to add in here?
Yeah, I think the takeaway is there's not like one definitive action that you should take now or should take on October 27th. I think the data piece will get interesting, both from like, you kind of ran through the example on STR Insights and what will happen there over time. But similarly, a lot of us use Price Labs, right? And Price Labs isn't able to detect what fee structure a host is operating under. And so it might look in a market and half the people are charging $100 a night, half the people are charging $115 a night, while it's the same for the guests. And it's like, I don't know how it's going to solve for that. It's easier
it's not. We have to be proactive because Price Labs is also relying on trailing 12 data. So as we look at booking lead time, I think so. Like, for example, I know Sandeep, good friend of mine, everybody. So I'm going to give him a little bit of crap, but like, I like the idea of raising rates by half. Seems like a great compromise. What about that? I mean, that might work during the high season, but I mean, you could probably raise rates all the way in the high season. You probably should raise rates all the way in the high season, but in the low season, that's not going to work. You're going to have to compromise because you're going to have other people who aren't going to raise their rates and they're going to get booked before you. And so there is a delicate balance of like, what is your ADR going to be versus like your occupancy rate? And it depends on your property and it depends on your market. That's the hard part with this, guys. I know we're not giving you like straight answers of what you should do, but if you generically like, oh, I'm just going to split the difference, like that, you will leave money on the table during the summertime and you'll lose money during the wintertime. And you'll actually lose money doing that strategy because it's too generic for what we're trying to say into it. It sounded like a chicken at first, Erik.
One old dog.
That was your dog. Yeah.
Another old dog.
Okay, so let's hit some questions here. Well, we need to increase 14.9% on cleaning fee to remain the same. Is the pet fee included? Airbnb takes a cut.
Yes, Airbnb takes a cut of whatever fee you institute. Cleaning fee, pet fee.
You're trying to do a total, right?
Management fee, whatever fee you have, Airbnb takes a cut. So it depends on what platform you use and how you decide to go about. If you decide to raise your rates 14.79%, the method in which you use to do that will determine if you need to change those fees as well. I mean, in theory, if you want to receive the same money in your pocket, kind of as we discussed, then yes, you'll need to account for that in some capacity. If you should, or how much should you, that's the topic of, open to interpretation. I would say that probably now more than ever, it will be really important to monitor your competition. If you don't have a comp set built out in Price Labs, if you use Price Labs, definitely do that. Sort of the poor man's way of building a comp set. Go into Airbnb, look at all your competitors and put them in a wish list and call them competitors. You can go, any date range and look at all of your competitors, and number one, see if they're booked, and number two, see what they're charging for the dates that you're looking at. That's a quick and easy way to kind of monitor what your competition is doing as well. I mean, the worst case, I think, scenario, unless you have like super number one property in your area, is everyone now undercutting you on price. That's not going to work well for you. So you got to monitor what everyone else is doing and adjust accordingly.
So, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. So Brittany Griddle, I don't mean to call anyone out on this.
Yep.
I think that it has her name on it, but I don't agree with this statement. So I think raising your prices by 14.78% and continue to do good revenue management going forward, you'll have some safeguards in place to adjust for seasonality, fluctuations in demand and occupancy that come from the change. I mean, yes, like that's kind of like a statement rather than like an opinion. But here's the thing, though. I think this is the generality that I'm seeing a lot of people making, meaning, okay, well, if I just have good revenue strategy and I raise the prices, I should be fine. I mean, that's relative to fine, how you define fine. But if you do this, you have to remember your property, all of our properties for the most part, this is a general statement, we're not super, super duper unique. So there is going to be some we will fill this financially. Some properties will fill it a lot financially, like the average is going to get squeezed out. Other properties, top performing properties, maybe like 2 or 3%, all things else made equal. Now there could be even more demand, and like next year the economy's booming and everybody's going out and vacationing, we're all making more money. That's great. But if it's the same exact demand year over year in the same exact conditions, and you just raised your prices 14.78%, you're going to have to compete with these other people and drop it down, and you will be financially impacted. But the amount that it's financially impacted is determined upon how unique your property is. But you will be down technically, all things made equal. So it isn't as simple as just raise it up and do good pricing strategy. Like I'm going to say this is kind of a bold statement. So thank you, Brittany, for commenting and sharing. I do appreciate that. That was a good statement too. But I do want to make this bold statement, like, to everybody. If you were barely breaking even on a property right now and you're like, what do I need to do? I feel like I'm the average. It's going to get harder for you, a lot harder. And it might be time to sell. Okay. And most people, it might be time to sell anyway and use your equity and expand and grow and scale. But the problem is if you're already struggling right now, it's going to get harder. But for those of us who are at the top of the market, this impact it's not going to impact us by that much. There will be a slight impact, but not by that much. So, and we can offset it based on demand and seasonality and things. But overall, if you're struggling, you're in the average, this is just going to make it harder and harder and harder. I'm not saying get out of the industry. You could sell, you might have equity and it's time to scale up, and maybe you've been on the fence about it. Most people who are like, should I sell? Usually the answer is, yeah, you probably should, but to each his own. Everybody's situation is different, and I get that. But the problem is you need to be, you got to realize like the impact will be different from person to person. So stay away from like generic statements that, all I got to do is X and I'm fine. Depends on the property, depends on the market, depends on demand. And we pray that demand increases so we don't actually feel any like hits here. Okay, there's some really good. Daniel, no, he already read my mind. Time to sell. Anyone want to buy a common property? Daniel, all you got to do is get a good realtor, and they will sell eyes to an Eskimo, man. I can give you a few names too. Oh my gosh. Let's see. I mean, there was only like 300 people on this thing, so not everyone's going to be caught up.
I think that's one thing to remember, right? Is like, it would be nice if everyone was doing the same thing at the same time. I mean, there's 200 people here. Look at the Facebook groups that you're a part of. There's, 35,000 in Bill Faith's group. There's, tens of thousands. Some of these groups have 100,000 people in it, which seems like a lot of people. But in the U.S. alone, there's like 4 to 5 million Airbnb hosts, individual hosts. So I assure you that 4 million people are never going to do the exact same thing at the exact same time, except maybe watch the Super Bowl.
Yeah. That's so true. Oh my goodness. Let's see here. We do. So just to answer, Eric, I'm gonna let you answer this one again.
Well, I mean, technically, no, but the fact that it's affecting so many other people, it sort of indirectly affects you. Yeah, I guess that's the way to answer
it. That is true. Okay. All right. Somebody said, isn't also the problem that we can't just increase prices in Price Labs because this is Airbnb specific and Price Labs doesn't have OTA specific settings?
Right. If you've connected Price Labs directly to Airbnb, you can do a pricing offset, which it will establish the price that it needs and raise it by whatever percentage you tell it to as it sends it over to Airbnb.
Yeah.
If you're on multiple platforms and you use a PMS, Price Labs connects to the PMS, and then you can do a price offset for that specific platform. I think all PMS support that in some capacity. If not, find a new one.
Yeah. So someone said I do arbitrage. Yeah, this is going to really hurt. Might kind of be the nail in the coffin for arbitrage, to be honest. It's been tough recently. So I feel you, Faith. Somebody said sell or remove Airbnb from the PMS.
Neither.
I don't think it's that extreme. I think direct bookings, to be fair, like we should all probably be considering like building direct booking sites and being more aggressive on that front. But at the end of the day, like, no, Airbnb is still a great marketing tool. We can still get bookings. We can still profit from it. We just probably need to think a little bit more outside the box is my kind of 2 cents. I don't know, Erik, how you feel about that.
Yeah, I think that goes back to myth number one that we kicked this off with. The sky is not falling, right? You just need to figure out how you will, adjust accordingly. And I'm not planning to disconnect anything. It's because you're still kind of in the same boat in the sense that, like right now, 95% of us are operating under the same rules, 3% host fee here in the U.S. If you're international, that's a whole other story. U.S., 5% of us are using simplified pricing. 95% of us are playing under the same rules. Whether you disconnect your PMS and stick with the split fee structure, you still are having a wide swath of people that are changing the way they operate. And so in theory, it will affect everyone, and just disconnecting and keeping the status quo of your 3% split fee, that doesn't really solve anything. Because now instead of being part of the 95%, you might be part of 50%, 40%, 60%. I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure anyone knows, but that's kind of the unfortunate thing of this whole thing is now there's going to be lots of different people operating under different structures, and that uncertainty affects us all.
That's the hard part. To be like, I wish the ship went down with everyone, right. It was like, hey, everyone's getting impacted. It'd be a little bit easier to predict how this is going to be, but it's just not going to work that way. So it's going to, like I say, unfortunately, it's property and market specific where we have to adjust. Somebody said, we talked about arbitrage. Wait, did I miss it? Does this push you? The question was like, does it push you more towards rental arbitrage than buying? I think it's going to be harder to arbitrage with this. So I don't know. Rental arbitrage has been tough. Now, moving to midterm rentals with rental arbitrage. Someone mentioned that as well. I think that can actually do very well. But as a short-term rental, it's going to be tougher, especially with regulations and things. Some kid in the basement is using AI to put some kid in the basement is using AI to put Airbnb out of business, hopefully by October 27th. All right. I don't know. Do we need to like start a crowdfund or something? Or
Find that.
Yeah. What about buying properties overseas from Sandeep? I mean, would that impact?
Well, I think in a lot of international locations, the
I don't think it's going to
the
impact.
option went away a long time ago. So, yeah, go overseas and where everyone is operating under the same rules. Find me a place in Costa Rica. I'll just move there.
There you go. I heard it's really hard. There's a lot of like weird tax rules and stuff. But whatever. I don't know too much about overseas, but Erik is correct. They already have a lot of set structure. This is really impacting the U.S. host. Is there any confirmation that people not using a PMS will have this change in December, or is it?
I mean, we covered that in the beginning.
Yeah.
I can only go by what's published on their website and the email that went out. And so far, it clearly states that non-PMS users will continue to have the split fee option available to them.
Yep.
I assume at some point they will do away with that. I don't know why they're not doing away with it all at once, but
they might be trying to get people to use Airbnb's pricing, smart pricing, right? So, yeah. Which means price your property lower. All right, we're kind of getting to the end of the questions. So this is one of the last ones. Remember, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. For a mature vacation market with a lot of listings on property management systems should be less of an impact.
I don't know that matters because you're still faced with the same issue of not everyone is going to react to this in the same way. Some people are going to raise the rates, whatever amount. Some people will raise it more. Some people will raise them less. Should be a lot of people that don't raise them at all. So
beach markets, for example, in my opinion, are going to be less impacted by this because they're getting most of their bookings on VRBO or booking.com. Like if you're only taking 10% of bookings on Airbnb, even if you pay their stupid fee, it really isn't financially impacting you that much. So when you say mature vacation market, it depends on the market. Ultimately. And then what Erik said too, I like to carry on what Erik said is he's 100% correct. So ditto to that. And then it depends on your market and how the impact will occur. So, what if the new strategy is to collectively all leave Airbnb? STR Insight starts its own booking website, which I wouldn't do, and Airbnb becomes obsolete. All right, Catherine Combs. I love it. Let me everyone just give that a joyful emoji.
Yeah. Well, the door has been open for Vrbo to take over market share many times, and they refuse to walk through it. So I don't know that Kenny and I will do any better than Vrbo.
What would big players like Vacasa do? They're going to push. I think there's going to be a bigger push towards direct bookings, and I think they're going to. Vacasa was bought recently too, so they're trying to strategize and be smarter about that. So, cool.
And whatever they do, you should probably do the opposite.
That's fair. Sorry I joined late, but was there a ballpark percentage increase that was mentioned as a good buffer to add to hospitable to make up for this change? So the number was 14.79%, the magic number.
That's the math if you want to keep your payout the same.
Exactly.
We're not necessarily lobbying to go in and do that. I will say that 2 days ago, I switched to simplified pricing. I went ahead and did it. It's currently 15%, so that math is 14 point whatever. So I did it, and I raised my rates accordingly. We'll see.
I think if you're going to switch your pricing, I think you should do it before October 27th to get a jump on everyone else who's going to do it on October 27th. And the reason why is because once they switch and they raise their prices, they're going to drop in the ranking algorithm, and you're going to go up. If you've already got your prices figured out and adjusted or whatever, you will go up. So you can kind of take advantage of that time and be an early bird rather than a mass adopter, as I like to put it. That's personally what I'm going to do.
That's what I already did.
Thank you, Scott. Hey, guys, let us know. I know we're losing a lot of people here, but let us know in the chat. I probably offended like 30 or 40, but let us know in the chat if you found this to be helpful, useful, or if you're just scared. I was going to say something else, but if you were just, scared, I don't know. Let us know. What are your thoughts and feelings? Do you feel a little bit more informed? Let us know in the chat here. We appreciate any feedback we get.
Just remember myth number 1: the sky is not falling.
Exactly. That is just, you just got to be smarter about how you approach it. So, but the point though is like, don't fall for these extremes. Like our society has this, like we're always polarized, right? Like, oh, I got to be the left or right or red or blue or whatever. And it's like, it's the same thing here. It's like you have people like the sky is falling, Airbnb's dead, and you have other people who are like, there's no problem at all. We're all totally fine. They're like that dog in the house that's burning. Like everything's fine. The house isn't burning down, okay? So, but at the same time too, this is impactful and it will have an impact. So how are you going to adjust for that? Don't just generically go, it's all good, or I'm going to get off Airbnb and we're all screwed. Like this is, both of those things are wrong. So be smart about it. All right. One person said it was good. Just kidding. There was a lot of good stuff.
That was
Great
my mom.
insights and discussion. Very helpful. Last suggestion, switch now. Be better. SEO. Yep. So we started to give our opinions on what we're going to do. Remember, we're not pricing professionals, but we do know the number 2 pricing revenue. What was it, Eric? The number 2.
The number 2 revenue manager in our industry.
There we go. Yes.
That's Jake Cohen. Step-by-step B&B.
There you go.
Hey, or call Emil. He's the number 1 revenue.
The number 1 is Emil. There we go. So I know them both. A little nervous.
Don't be nervous, Alexis. It'll be just fine.
Yeah, don't be nervous. You're good. You're good. So good for you for being here, and you're just learning and empowering yourself. This is what's going to give you the advantage. These little things that you do, that's what's going to help you stay on top and be successful. So don't panic. Thank you. Sandeep said it was out. Hey, that's a lot coming from Sandeep.
What I thought. Quite a
usually he texts me, he's like, that sucked. And I'm like, okay.
Don't ever give him my number.
Oh goodness. I'm just kidding. Sandeep is one of the smartest people that anybody on here should know. So if he ever comments or tells you something, you take that serious. So all right. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody. So we're going to wrap up here. I think we're at that conclusion. Thank you, Erik, for hopping on here. Thanks, everybody.
Any questions? You can find us on Facebook. I have a Facebook group, STR Tech Talk. You can find that. Ask any other questions.
Yeah. So let's make a little banner for them, because yes, I do think that is so STR Tech Talk. Add banner. Oops. Oh, dang it. So delete that. There we go. Give me a line.
I switched it to 4. What was the math? I did the math somewhere.
Thank you, Erik. Did you switch now and increase by 14.79%? We'll tweak it down
to 14.12%.
Oh, Eric's going to get the jump on all of you.
The host fee currently is only 15%. It goes up.
Yep. All right. And guys, hey, if you are looking, if you need help finding deals and you're like, holy crap, this now just stressed the crap out of me. How do I even find deals that make financial sense? Reach out. Let's chat. So this is this goes to a Calendly link. So strinsights.com/Kenny. I got my own little subdomain now. Yeet. So feel free to reach out and let's chat. So thank you, everybody. Go check out. So Rochelle's like, what's Erik's blog? Go to strtechtalk.com and blogs, and you will see his blog in there. I also posted a link earlier in the chat too, and you can go and grab that. there too. That Erik posted it, the link to his website. So strtechtalk.com. And if you guys would like to chat, you can see my link down there. And then guys, go follow us. I don't know, Erik's not on Instagram, but follow me on Instagram at Kenny_Bedwell, or friend request us on Facebook. We post stuff about all this all the time as we get these updates. Thanks everyone for watching. The replay is on YouTube, Luke. Anyway, so you can watch on YouTube, or you'll get an email sent to you as well. Thanks everybody for watching. Please reach out if you have any questions, concerns, follow us, all that fun stuff. Go check out the website, and I'll see you sometime in the future. Good luck and be strategic. See you guys. Have a great day.